Hello everybody at Dusklight Radio. It is your resident janitor, TJ Lee, and I am joined by my other resident janitor, who has been placed here on a, I guess like an internship, if you will, or a scholarship from Evelyn. It's Lulu. It's SpiritVoices.
I'm just happy to help.
And you are a huge help, as you are with all of these primers. I believe this is the last primer, at least to my knowledge, that we will be doing in this campaign. It's an annoying one to do, but this is when I had my old PC, and there was a lot of unfortunate mishaps. So this is episode 23, which I don't have a name for yet. I'm sure I'll have one by the time it goes up in a week or so. But, yeah, we wanted to sit and talk with you guys, go through the plot that you will inevitably miss, and then maybe just go through a couple of like little notes and questions and things for the end of the campaign, because in the current timing, we're actually wrapping up, and we're moving on to something else. I'm not 100% sure on how we're going to do that. We might be live streaming it. It depends on if I want to oversaturate the schedule. We've also had artwork done, and merch is getting made, and we're putting on podcasts. There's a lot of things to go through. So, first and foremost, need to give a big thank you to Lucy for doing all the notes, whether that is the transcripts that were being done. Those are really hard, so there's not all of them, because Lucy has to put a lot of time into that, and I don't ever want to push her to do it. But there is also the general recaps, which are a lifesaver, because I would not remember what happened this long ago without these recaps. So we're going to go through them a little bit. Lucy and I will guide you through them, and we'll answer some questions. And yeah, then you'll have this in your feeds. And I hope you can forgive us for having it, but if we had put up this particular episode, the audio was so bad and skippable in places that it wouldn't have made any sense. So unfortunately, we made the decision, Lucy and I, to just leave it and pick things up. So at the end of the last episode, Would You Like to Play a Game? We had a freeze frame moment where Nish was asking where Kruger was. And Lucy, I will pass it over to you for a moment.
Yeah, so from where we left off, Jericho says that he thought that Kruger and Nish would be together wherever they were taken by JJ. But Nish says that she has not seen Kruger in weeks, and that he was busy with family stuff, and that he said he had to meet with someone. And she assumed that someone was Jericho, but Jericho says that he heard a very similar thing the last time he saw him, so neither of them know where he is or who he met with. So that's all very mysterious and suspicious.
Yeah, we wanted mystery in there as well, so, the idea of doing the Fractal Hunt was to have it be that effectively there were different elements when doing this campaign of, okay, there's a ranking system, there's a hunt going on, you don't know who to trust, and different elements, and also you had to deal with JJ, who was providing all these horrible game shows, which was an inspiration from the Suffering game, from the Adventure Zone, because I just wanted to try my own little version of that, and in between that, there were people going missing, so yeah, it was a lot to keep track of. Yeah.
It's a whole thing. So Nish asks where they are now, and Jericho tells her that they're in the spaces in between, which is, our well-known haven at this point. So Nish says that she's going to go get a drink to clear her head, but when they start moving, she wants to know, that they're leaving so that she can come with them. Mm-hmm. And Jericho promises that he'll tell her, but he also warns her not to go downstairs to the basement, because that is where Kruger's dad's body is. And that is obviously devastating for her to hear, because if I remember correctly, they're they were really close with Kruger's dad. She calls him uncle. So
yeah.
So she's obviously very sad to hear that he's dead. and she demands to know what happened, and Jericho says that he was killed in the Fractal Hunt, but they don't really have any more information than that. Like, he suspects that it was Deimos, but it's not clear yet, and Nish kind of takes that and immediately just wants to get revenge and vows to rip Deimos apart, and you know, she has to go calm down again at the bar. And yeah, it's like it's a rough moment for Jericho to have to be the bearer of bad news to her, but
yeah, and it's definitely tough, you know, because obviously this is where casualties start to mount up, if you will. And then when Jericho goes and processes things, obviously he sees Jimmy is still crying, and I feel I should let you take that because it's relevant to your character.
Yeah, that was a rough moment, to say the least. Yeah, Jimmy is still, like, sat up against the wall, and, you know, I have here that the only thing he can think is how angry he is that Callista had to give something up because of him. Like, he's not really angry at her specifically, but he's angry about the whole situation, angry at JJ. Sure. Just upset that he couldn't protect her and that she was the one who had to protect him. So it's really rough on Jimmy specifically. And so Jericho kind of runs into him, and I think he was comforting him, really, but I don't know, I don't have much of that scene here. I think it might just be Jimmy on his own, honestly.
Yeah, I think like he's just gathering himself on his own, to be honest. And obviously what you gave up is relevant in itself. You know, like, that was a big moment for your character.
Yeah, it was, for sure. That was a tough I listened back to that actually recently when I saw you posted that episode, and it was a tough choice. I took forever to decide on that, but I think it was necessary to think through.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And when that kind of coalesces, he gathers himself and thinks about things. Fala, we switch to Fala, who isn't aware of where she's been, but she snaps awake. All of her things are in this cellar, and she sees two bodies, Chatri, the air fractal, who was assassinated at the beginning of the arc, and the body of a middle-aged muscly man that she doesn't recognize. Scrawled over the body with some sort of red ink or paint or blood with a smiley face at the bottom, it says, "Get to work, Doctor." And this is where Fala's clinic merges with the cellar. And despite the ominous and mocking tone of the note, she's not feeling any danger. I mean, she's not locked in, and she does feel a sense of purpose. And Fala, being the scientist, the our researcher, it was important that she was able to continue unabated. She looks at the bodies quite carefully, and then she goes upstairs to find someone to help. And when she goes up the stairs, the first person she meets is our newest addition to the Nightmare Detectives fandom. Which is Victor Mendoza. Would you like to tell us a little bit about Victor, Lucy?
Just in general.
Yeah, sure.
Well, as we know, Victor Mendoza, as a character in the game, he has a lot of different renditions of himself all over Sturgeon that are doing various different things. So we've met a few Victor Mendozas so far. But yeah, we have the actual Victor Mendoza.
Yes, the canon Victor Mendoza.
The OG Victor Mendoza.
I will say this as a disclaimer, and I know Victor will not mind. Because I think this is... Do you think this is worth, like, doing the sort of elephant in the room, like, early, like, discussing, like, the player engagement? So, we had, as the arc went on, as this arc goes on, and particularly into the latter half of the game, we did have problems with player engagement. I think that's fair to say. From Flebs and from Victor. And Victor is someone who has been one of my closest friends for well over a decade. So all of this is said with love and what have you. But he and Flebs just really struggled, and we made a joke of it to begin with. And I guess I want to say it's because it's also about listener enjoyment, right? We would have these little jokes where Victor would be playing, and he would, because he's very sort of, both him and Flebs quite deadpan in their delivery, although Victor tends to be a bit more animated. And we were, more than one occasion, we caught Victor playing Sonic 3 while we were playing the game, and because I'm so comfortable with Victor, I was able to roast him in a appropriate way and bring him back into the game, whereas when there were engagement problems like with Dahlia or with Flebs, that was a bit more of a difficulty to navigate, I think it's fair to say.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that.
So Victor does have those problems, as does Flebs when Flebs returns in this arc, and I don't know whether we should... Is it worth discussing the whole thing now, or waiting until near the end of the game to bring it up? It's got to be brought up.
Yeah,
so.
we can do a vague, an overall summary, but yeah, the details. It's not going to be necessary until much later on in the campaign. So
sure. I will say, yeah. I mean, you're talking 6 months from now for you guys, but
yeah,
there will be a point where Flebs and Victor disappear from the game. And it is sort of addressed canonically, and Victor does return, just for our sort of finale. Flebs does not. I think the best way I could sort of say this for now, at least, is it will be obvious in the audio, which is super unfortunate. But there really, I feel that there wasn't a lot I could do about that. I think it's fair to say. I really tried my best, but there was a lack of engagement, and anyone who DMs or plays with a group of eclectic people knows that there are certain archetypes, and so, there's no judgment here. I'm not going to say anything disrespectful or rude or anything like that. I wish Flebs all the best, but he was not really engaging in the game or the story points, and it has been brought up in the comments a couple times with Dahlia and Flebs as well, and there were just different things going on in their lives, and they weren't able to give that focus to the game, and that happens. People are, that's just, unfortunately, things happen, and when you play a game like this, some people don't know what they're getting into, and they realize it's not for them, and they don't know how to politely exit. Some people, just don't care. I don't think it was that they didn't care. I think it was just that there was an engagement level that was expected that they weren't able to reach, and so to gloss over some of the details, in Dahlia's case, she needed to step away for her own health, and that was the right decision, and she's doing much better, and we're really happy about that. The reason she's not in the artwork is she was only in the game for 3 sessions, so it really didn't feel appropriate. With Victor took some time away, was very apologetic and wanted to come back in, and it was a really good decision in the long run. Victor came back in with a completely different energy, which I think all of us really loved in those like finale sessions.
Yeah.
With Flebs, we tried to do engagement with each other. It just reached an impasse. Is all I'm really gonna say, and we decided on an exit, which is super sad. It's something that will be addressed down the line, I'm sure, but. Yeah, that kind of happens, and I'm bringing it up because we are getting close to one of those moments. In fact, I'd say for both of them, this is where you start to notice player disengagement in the next sort of couple sessions, because I've edited ahead and I've done most of the Fractal Hunt now, and you can notice it, and I won't get another chance to really bring this up until possibly the next Dream Team one shot, which is in 4 weeks. So I thought maybe it's worth doing now, because otherwise it's going to be the arc past this, which is where it gets really bad. And I didn't want to just leave that hanging for 3 months, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And just to be clear, all 3 of them, they weren't so much as forced out of the game, so much as they chose to leave for their own reasons. And we like you said earlier, we tried to work with all three of them to see if there was a sort of compromise situation we could reach, but it ended up just being best for everybody involved. That they, left when they did. And again, that is far into the future for you guys, so it's not that big of a deal right now, but yeah, you do start to see that a little bit, and it is...
There are decisions made in the Fractal Hunt that
Yeah.
directly link in with disengagement
Yeah.
and a lack of foresight. And I am admittedly worried because, I do play, as you guys know by this point, a very dramatic game. It is a very dramatic game where, we all are overacting, I think could be argued in some places. Particularly myself and Lulu, who,
That's what we do.
That's what we do. And, we know that the audience enjoys that. And we don't expect that from everybody. Like, Fala is very emotional. Amy's a very emotional player. Jimmy does good speeches. And Jericho is very sassy. We all have different elements. And Victor, credit to Victor, though. Like, I will say, Victor does know how to be funny. And he's sassy. But his problem was, like, I said, it was just that he wasn't taking it seriously, at least to begin with. But you will see that disengagement, you'll see decisions made, and I am worried about what it will do for the audience. So if you are a few weeks or a few months down the line, you're like, man, this is really dissonant in terms of its tone from player 1 to players 2, 3, and 4, come back to this and you'll have your answer. I think overall it is still a very good story, and I think that those moments do not reflect on the rest of the game. And I think those characters, for Flebs and Victor, still have great moments. I do. But it's something that I know I'm not going to get to address for a while. And I was like, you know what? I would be better off doing it, now. Yeah. But that's it. I mean, there's no major drama. There's no specialty. That's just it. Sometimes players... They get more involved than they expected to, or they don't get as involved as they expected to. It happens, and it's a learning lesson. I have never DM'd before this. This is my first year of DMing, and I've learned a lot. I mean, good lord, when we do the wrap-up primer for this game, I am going to be getting some shit for the way that this game was done, especially how I broke the system of Monster of the Week. I won't be doing that again, I can tell you that. But when we move to a much larger system, like if we do D&D 5th edition, or if we do Pathfinder, or we do Eberron, or whatever we end up doing, where we have a larger cast, that may very well not be the core group I'm playing with now. It might be myself, Lucy, and a few... I don't want to say anything, so I shouldn't, because we haven't signed anything yet. But there will be people that are more industry standard professionals. That will be a very different vibe. I still want to play with my friends, with our group. I always want to, no matter what. But it's like, I need those learning lessons now. Because the further up you go professionally, the harder it is to sort of recover from those mistakes. So... yeah, sorry to deviate there, but it was important. I mean, Lulu, do you have anything on the subject of Flebs and Victor that you wanted to say?
No, I think that's really it for now, because I'm sure that we will have another chance to talk about it at some point later on in the game, and I don't have any, aside from, the facts of what happened, I don't have any hard feelings toward any of them, so it's like you said, we wish them the best, and we've been keeping in touch with definitely with Victor, because he was just in our game again, and yeah, it's just is what it is. It was pretty unfortunate, just in terms of we were still playing the game, so we had to work that out, mechanically speaking. But, I think it all worked out for the best overall, and hopefully the listeners will agree when they hear it. But until then, yeah, we have we have plot points with them. They're still very much a part of it, and hopefully it's still something to get invested in. It's not like they need to be overlooked or anything, and they still play an important part in our group. So, but just something to keep in mind, just to have some context for those moments if you need it. Those sort of player dynamics are important to sort of know about.
Yeah, I agree. So, jumping back into where our plot is at, it's also because we don't have... This won't be a super long primer, for once.
Yeah.
We meet Victor Mendoza. and she compliments his beard, and we give him a sweet high five, and then she looks for the rest of her group, and the closest person she sees is Jericho, who she walks over to and asks to know what happened, and Trevin, being the little gremlin he is, he says, "Fella, where have you been? It's been 5 years," because he likes to mess with the time traveler. Fala threatens him and lifts her hand to backhand him, and he claps, and I believe the reason that this happens, he failed a roll. So he claps the portal up here. Yeah, I think so. I think I did this because I thought this would be really funny tonally, as I tend to do. And a portal opens, and 2 big silverback gorillas walk out. One dressed in a fancy boy outfit, one albino, and without one. They come out and sit and wait wordlessly for Jericho. The former is gripping a sex on the beach, and the latter is smashing walnuts. Jericho chooses the well-dressed one and is introduced as Spanky. And Jericho starts laughing, and Spanky says, "You making fun of my name, boy?" And again, Jericho being Jericho says, "No, but your name is Spanky, so let's take that in." And Spanky says, "Well, your name literally means moon, boy. How about I send you back there?" And an orangutan announces the fight, and the battle begins.
Yeah, we have it. So for those of you who like the monkey pit moments, that is pretty much exactly what happens. Although Jericho's not usually involved in these, so that's
he actually actively doesn't want to be in them.
Exactly. So it's kind of an interesting one. I've got the whole fight laid out here, but
I know. I thought you'd be good to read that one.
You did?
I did. You can read up to the second fight. And then I'll do the third one.
Up to where Jimmy? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so Jericho tries to duck underneath Spanky, but Spanky picks him up and throws him down into the ground. Victor, all of us, I believe, are like nearby, sort of watching this. And so Victor has to dodge some errant wood that is thrown at him, and all of the other apes, because there are a lot of audience members, jump up and scream in excitement. Spanky tumbles forward, and Jericho goes to smoothly step out of the way, but Spanky, quote, butt blasts him in the face. I'm assuming that is an exact quote from TJ describing what happens. And all the other apes in the audience. It's a hip attack.
It's not. He doesn't like gas him up.
Sure, right. All the other apes are freaking out as Jericho hits the ground. So Spanky is currently sitting on Jericho and is mocking him and teabagging him. And then Jimmy suddenly gets up, not able to watch this anymore, and obviously wanting to join in the monkey pit battle.
Of course.
And so he hits Spanky with everything that he has.
And, Spanky grins from ear to ear, spitting out a tooth, and Truman, who is the MC, asks if they're changing the terms as Jimmy picks Jericho off the ground and places him behind him. Truman asks if Jimmy is entering alongside Mr. Branch or taking his steed, and Jimmy replies he's taking his place. The albino gorilla gets up and walks towards him, and he's introduced as Samson. Truman says that now Jimmy has entered the ring, Samson will too. Spanky puts both fists together and tries to slam Jimmy down, but he misses entirely. Instead, Jimmy sidesteps him, palms him in the face, drives his head and upper body straight down into the floor. His whole body arcs up and then crashes down, and Spanky is KO'd. There's a brief silence, and then Samson roars and Jimmy roars back. The two of them clash as Samson volleys an uppercut toward Jimmy, which connects, but Jimmy returns it immediately, followed by a 1-2 combination where he clocks him in the jaw. Samson's legs buckle, but he doesn't go down. He rears back up and tries one last effort, hitting him in the cheek, but Jimmy punches him off the floor and sends him flying. There's a slow motion moment where Fala watches wide-eyed with her banana daiquiri, very important. Callista gets up out of her seat, Muldoon spits out kettle corn, and Caprice secretly records it, and Victor sips his cherry Sprite. There's a silence as Samson falls to the ground, and Truman announces victory for Chewy. He says, there is a new Monkey Pit champion, henceforth you shall be known as Chewy. Chewy's arm is lifted into the air, and as the scene finishes, he looks over at Callista across the room and begins to move towards her. But as he passes Alpha Victor, he slaps him on the ass. Victor attempts to hide his reaction to that in a moss-covered lobster fursuit on reflex, but we don't know why for some reason. Sully shoos the monkeys out.
That's a chaotic fucking scene.
It sure is. So I'll let you have the next one.
I also like how I labeled him Alpha Victor. It's like Victor Prime, whatever you'd like to call him.
Yeah, whichever.
Planewalker.
We're not choosy.
Yeah, we're really not.
We're not a choosy group.
We're not a choosy group. We're several other things. So, okay. So after that, after the bar has been cleared out, Sully angrily chases all the monkeys out. Everyone else, all the main cast, is still waiting around the bar. And Muldoon checks his watch and remarks that Faye should not have been gone for this long. And he asks Callista if she wouldn't mind looking for her with him. And Callista replies that of course they will. While they're kind of leaving, they're kind of walking out toward the back. Another Victor Mendoza appears in a flash of light and demands to know what Prime Mendoza is doing here, quote, lazing about. And what I have written down right after that is he reveals that he's the time fractal, the beautiful cadence. I'm not sure how he does that so casually.
That's because Victor doesn't care. Like,
He doesn't care.
Victor's whole thing, even when I was playing him as an NPC, is that he really just doesn't care. He's like, yeah, I'm the time fractal.
Yeah, whatever. Big deal.
Fala goes downstairs, and she begins her autopsy on Otto. She ties her hair up, puts a pencil through it, and sets a dictaphone down to capture her notes. She assesses the damage first, and it looks almost as if the water had been taken from his body, drained, and making his skin taut to make him look almost mummified. When she cuts him open, she sees that his heart has no reason to stop working, but it did. There are less signs of dehydration than she expected, and instead she sees signs of drained life force, like every part of him has been taken and his biological clock has been stopped. She determines that they're now looking for the life fractal, which has now taken the gravity fractal with them. But then she realizes that the life fractal would give life, presumably. So by elimination, they are looking for the death fractal. And Jericho, Jimmy, and Nish part the spaces between together, searching for Babylon. Endicott predicted they were in a storage locker, and that is somewhat correct. They're at the place called the Helix headquarters, where you'd have to enter through a storage unit and then head underground, because they're going to the Dream Team's secret special hideaway. It's the middle of the night, and they head through the parking lot. When they get there, though, there is a door that has been ripped off of its hinges, and there is a smashing sound coming from the hallway. Jericho notices it and says it looks like it was smashed by something. They proceed towards the commotion, and when they go down, the first thing they see is the cave woman Ung, who is embedded in the wall. It's a steel wall, and she's practically hanging through it like a cartoon. And I'll let you jump in there, Lucy.
Sure, yeah. Jericho pulls Ung out, and it looks like her back has been broken. And she looks up at him, and she says, you know, you Jericho. Like, she recognizes him. And Jericho thanks her because Ung calls him pretty. And she says that she would hug him, but her back hurts. So Jericho thanks her for the kind words and says that he would patch her up if he could, but he has to go save Babylon. And she tells Jericho that she saw two magic people, one using, quote, big heavy magic. And Jericho tries to stabilize, but his magic fails, and she ends up passing out from the pain. So Jericho looks to Nish, and he says, if what she just said was true, we might have just found Otto's killer. So they proceed to go down to the Dream Team hangout, the main area, where there's a kitchen, a lounge area, a training area, etc. And there's also a little shrine / battle area where Babylon apparently maybe practices fighting Jericho, because there is a cutout of Jericho there, which has a recording of Babylon mocking
Tell us
him.
about the cutout, Lulu.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different Jericho memorabilia there, but in this specific instance, it just has a recording of Babylon mocking him, specifically his, quote, horrible body odor problem.
Now, do you remember when we were doing this scene?
Vaguely.
Do you remember the reaction that they got?
I do remember Jericho being very defensive about that.
yeah. He's like, what do you mean by that? That's not great. I will just say I adore the Dream Team. Like,
I do too.
So much of a campaign. I think the secret sauce to a good campaign when you're playing with your friends and for audiences who do listen to it is that you kind of make characters that are more interesting than anything else. Like, they don't have to all be dark and mysterious, and they don't all have to take center stage, but they have to have something about them. And for me, what makes my character, like Dream Team, so fun is that they were just designed as a one-off joke. Like Victor Mendoza was a one-off joke. A lot of the characters I do are just meant to be like these little bit pieces. So when we introduced Babylon with the Dream Team back in Hotel Inertia, that was because I was like, oh, we'll do a Swilliam Fancy Son bit. So he's, Jericho Branch, Babylon Stump, and then the Nightmare Detectives, the Dream Team. So then you have to have Ballista, who is the opposite of Callista. Callista is a prim and proper warrior who, up until at least the middle of the game, is very, very rigid and awkward and has no interest in other human interaction or intimacy because her wife is, like that. Then you have Ballista, who is a literal succubus. Ung to Fala, so Fala being the time traveler from the future, Ung being the time traveler from the past, and Jolene to Jimmy, with Jolene like in a chill, and of course Faye to Lebs from Flebs Taylor, Faye just being this overly emotive, stalkery type of person who loves Jericho. So, who loves Babylon. It's just a really fun little thing to do with that group,
Yeah, it's one of those things where the character starts out as a bit, just a complete joke, and then they grow on us over time, and then it's like, oh no, we actually really care about these characters now. Even our characters ended up caring about them, and that's why Jericho's here. To be fair, is because he knows they're in danger, and so when he sees the Dream Team here in their hideout, it's a hard moment because Deimos is there, and he blasts Jericho back with his gravity powers, and he scolds them for taking their time. And there is another individual, another magic user, standing over Babylon and is utilizing their fractal powers on him by drowning him, basically just shooting water consistently into his face, not letting him up. So that's the scene temporarily cuts off there, and it cuts to Callista and Muldoon and Endicott, who have gone to the back of the bar to look for Faye. And I don't actually, just to pull the curtain back a little bit, I don't actually have notes on this scene because I have a hard time taking notes of scenes that I'm a part of. Yeah, but I do remember what happens here. So Muldoon is very worried, understandably, about Faye not coming back. And if I remember correctly, they are sort of like Callista is looking for signs of where she went. Yeah. And there's not much in terms of like physical evidence or anything. She's just completely gone. But there is a trail of water And Muldoon, like Callista sort of asks Muldoon what he might know about where she has gone, and he's freaking out, which is understandable, but it's more so than you would even expect from someone whose daughter is or niece is gone. It's like he knows something more than what he's saying, and so Callista kind of gently presses him for information. And she's, Muldoon's like on the ground, and Callista's crouching down next to him. And Muldoon tells her that there is more to Faye than he has previously said. Mm-hmm. There's more to her story and how they found each other. I don't know if you want me to...
No, I think this is your moment. I say go ahead.
Okay.
This is your story.
Sure.
This is a point of pride for me. I told it before. I think it's better you do it.
Okay, well, I'll say as much as I can. Again, I don't have the notes on it, but
I'll tell you if you say anything.
I was gonna say you can interrupt me if I'm going.
I would
off the
prefer
wrong
not to
direction.
interrupt you. You go ahead.
Okay. Well, here's everything that I remember. So we kind of flash back, sort of, to long before we met Muldoon in the first place, and he is a young police officer on a case. He gets called in to a disturbance, basically, and it is at oh gosh, I believe his brother's house, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He gets a call out to his siblings' to his brother's house one night.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. So he goes there, obviously, panicked, and he finds two babies there, his niece and nephew, and I remember that when he gets there, he doesn't really process what's happening. I think it's later on, and I think we probably have this on recording, that he kind of links anything to what's going on currently, but he... Remind me what happened to his brother when he gets there, because he sees them, right?
They're not there. They're gone.
Oh, they're gone.
Well, they're basically... Well, I believe the way we said it was that they were just kind of like dead. They're either dead or they disappeared. It was one of the two, and I can't remember, but it was like a ritual gone wrong.
Yes, yeah.
You know
I seem to remember them being dead, but I couldn't remember if there was a specific way that they died. But but he sees the babies there, and he walks up to them, and they are both crying, and this is after he's lost his daughter as well. Yes. So he was feeling very adrift already, and he sort of crouches down next to them and takes them, but if I remember correctly, it's not like his sister-in-law wasn't pregnant with them, right? They just appeared there.
Yep, they just appeared. There was no pregnancy.
There was no pregnancy. There was no biological aspect to it. This was, these two babies just showed up.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of sort of, I feel like I remember Muldoon having a lot of dread telling this story. He knows that it's not, that it, it isn't, something isn't right about it. And he couldn't keep the brother. He couldn't, one of the children he named Faye, but the other baby was named Tristan, and they couldn't keep Tristan. But he did raise
a little
Faye.
reference to Beneath the Static there for long-standing listeners, because again, there are references that are intentional here, and you will start to piece them all together. By the end of the game, you'll know why I've done that. But yes, it's Tristan and Faye Muldoon from the original Beneath the Static.
Yes.
Sorry, continue.
No, it's fine. I was just thinking, I think those are most of the details that I remember.
You have that, like, realization as Callista, and it's like this horrible thing of, like, just don't remember what was the other one thing that happened as, like, that whole situation is unfolding.
Scene-wise, you mean? Because I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so as the story is being told, we go back to the Dream Team hideout, and again, there's this individual standing over Babylon, and the last little scene that we get is Jericho kind of being able to see who this person is, and we see that it is in fact Faye who is drowning Babylon, and Deimos is like standing beside her. And
that in turn ends the particular chapter. So not bad. We did it all in 40 minutes with a deviation.
Wow.
But that is it. I'm not sure what I'm going to name this yet, but I will find that out. Yeah, I mean, at this stage, it's kind of insane. Like, this is episode 20. Oh gosh, I just said it at the beginning of the episode. Episode 23, and yeah, we went overboard. There are 70 something sessions, so we are not even halfway yet at this stage. I am going to, I'm going to keep putting them out every week so that we can get there. Definitely went a bit too long, but it is what it is. We will try and do a live stream in the next week or so. Like to do a hangout, catch up with everybody, read through some comments. Like the comments you guys have been leaving for myself, for Lulu doing Evelyn, have just been wonderful. Thank you so much for being, just understanding during these breaks. Sometimes, I need to work on things with Dark Somnium. Sometimes I need to work on my writing, with other things, but we're going to try and keep things consistent. We are obviously putting out the bar series. That is almost completely edited now. And then when we've done that, we will be doing the Tortoises and Tarots, and it will be Spirit Voices playing the lead role of Elizabeth Williams. So that has not been adapted. That's been adapted twice, actually. I was going to say not been adapted in a while, but Romnex did the original. Please go and check out Romnex's channel. That was a brilliant adaptation. And of course, Chelsea Rebecca from Dead Fucking Meat did it for Chilling on the Chilling app. Chelsea and I got to become friends with Chelsea through that, who is an absolute delight. I didn't know about Dead Meat. I will admit, did not know about Dead Meat until that happened, and I realized how good her and James are at what they do. Like, fucking incredible at what they do. She is one of the best voice actors that I have ever worked with. An absolute delight of a human being. Obviously, she played one of the Fates in NFC. I might have her come back for something special on Dark Somnium, maybe even Dusklight in the future. We will see. I haven't had that conversation yet, so we'll see. But either way, I think to wrap up, it kind of does make me have to stop and think sometimes about how wild it is, how many people we've had involved with Sturgeon. We surpassed 4 million total views, if you will, last month for Sturgeon content, which I think is just insane to even quantify that. And it's all because of you guys. I make no secret that Dusklight Radio is not a typical narration channel. I don't upload on a regular schedule. I try to, but I really struggle with it. We don't have normal formats. We don't do things the way other people do it, and that's because it's a hobby channel. I don't really have an interest in becoming massive on the channel because I don't think Sturgeon as a niche thing is going to ever be like that. But I love the fan base we're cultivating, the listeners and the passion. And I'm very grateful to all of you. I wouldn't have taken the chance on doing this game and meeting the people I met without the encouragement from all of you. So from myself, from all of the Nightmare Detectives cast, thank you so much for just being invested in what we're doing. Even if it's 100 listens or 1,000 listens, it means the world to us to know there are people who are actively excited to see the interactions between our characters, to hear Endicott, to see Paint Gunkerson come up. These characters obviously coming onto Dusklight, and they will keep doing that. So that's been really cool. Lulu, tell them a little bit about the artwork we've had done and some of the merch ideas we're getting.
So Sir Gorky, who has done a lot of great artwork in the past. I mean, we've talked about him before, but he's done like the Dark Somnium's profile picture, my profile picture on YouTube, etc. A lot of other things. He has done art of our characters as well, and it's so cool. It's very, very cool. And he's also given us a logo, so I think we're putting that. We're putting that on. What are we attaching that to?
We're doing it for a few things. We're gonna sort of check with the listener base, but I mean, I'd be happy to put it on mugs and caps and what have you. I obviously, for me, if any of you follow me on Instagram, you know that I am a big fan of like bootleg fashion, and I love busy designs. I'm personally not someone who likes the idea of spending $20, $25 without shipping, especially internationally, on a shirt that just has one thing on it. I prefer busy designs where you have like maybe a small thing on the front and a big one on the back, and then you have like busy sleeve designs and whatnot. So I've got a couple things in mind, but the logo we definitely want to put out there. I would love to hear from all of you. What I'm thinking is that we do the Nightmare Detectives logo over the breast pocket on the front, and then we do the back design with the characters on the back, and then we have Nightmare Detectives down one sleeve, and we might have a little phrase down the other sleeve, like Dusklight Radio, so everyone gets something busy. That would be a bit more money, but again, like, I want people to feel like they're wearing something cool and a bit different if they're getting our merch. So we will see. We'll figure it out. But we had those two things. You guys have seen them. They are absolutely wonderful.
So cool.
Very happy with those. If you want early access to any of our content, whether that's early episodes, because we're doing the next 3 Nightmare Detectives going up early, the Bar series going up early, you have exclusive stories, you can join us and support us on Patreon. Most of our videos are not monetized. That is because Envato Elements consistently flags our stuff even though we have licenses, and when we do Nightmare Detectives, they will never get licensed because I just prefer to use immersive music. I might play Hosier here, I might play anime music, because I want my audience and I want my listeners to really be engaged with it. I probably will not do that in future campaigns, but for this one it's already too late. So very little money is made through the channel. If you want to support us, that is a way of doing it. For as little as $1 a month, we'll then include you in the scripts at the beginning and end of every transmission. We write those together, Lucy and I. Lucy's ones are much funnier than mine.
Well,
I think they are. When Lucy does Evelyn transmissions, those are Lucy's, and when they're Everett, they're mine. But those we put work into, and obviously there is no obligation. It is a tough time in the world for everybody. Content will go out as normal. Please do not support us in lieu of bills or savings or anything else. We do have other artwork of Everett and the Dusklight Studio that has been drawn by Sir Gorky. It's actually something I've not even told Lulu about, but it's basically like a VTuber style art piece. So he has done several poses which we can animate between, and an animated background, and he's going to be drawing guests to come in and sit with Everett. So I really hope you like it. I love Mandy Mo's design, but it has been a few years, and I do think it is time we do a little bit of an upgrade. So let's just hope that people do not feel absolute hatred for change, because I know change is scary, believe me. But it is something that has to happen, and I just really hope you enjoy it. Lulu, I'm going to show you for a live Lucy reaction.
Oh, great. No
so
pressure.
This is Gorky does a great job, man, but that's the generic one he's done.
Ooh, that is wow.
Thoughts?
Oh, it's great. It's like more realistic than the
Yeah, it's a little bit spooky. Everett isn't a thirst trap anymore.
Sure.
That much I will say, which is fine. I kind of, I don't mind that. I don't mind him not being a thirst trap. And then on top of that, here are his poses, because I think you'll like where this is going. So I've got 3 poses and an empty seat.
Oh, this is good. I like the first one.
I think we'll need a couple more, Gorky really went all out on these. He's still, Everett still looks youngish, but he definitely has a much more ghoulish appearance.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I want to briefly touch on before we wrap up here is that we very much want to get away from using any sort of mid-journey generations, for backgrounds and stuff. I very much think that supporting an artist and paying someone to commission something is way more valuable a resource and way more important in the space we work in, because at the end of the day, as a writer, I've had many of my works stolen by text-to-speech channels. I've seen that Dark Tales channel I mentioned before getting triple the viewership, and all they're doing is copying and pasting it into a text-to-speech algorithm. I don't support that, and so for that reason alone, I don't want to do the same thing with artwork. So I'm very proud that we've got Sir Gorky on board. He really is just an incredibly talented human being, and I'm very glad that he's rendered Everett in the beauteous image you see when you look at our page. But I think on that note, that is everything from us. Is there anything you would like to put out to the Dusklight listeners?
No, I think that's it. I mean, again, thank you as per usual for supporting us, as you already said. And I'll just go ahead and, from me, myself, say thank you for all the support I got as Evelyn, because that was very fun. Since I have not been putting out much content on my own channel recently, it was nice to, be able to create something like that again. And Evelyn's, those, scripts that we wrote and everything were very a fun challenge for me. I did have a lot of fun. Yeah, I had a lot of fun writing them. So thanks for all of these sweet comments and everything that I got on those videos, and I will be doing that at some point soon. I don't have a lot of time to do it regularly, but I will be back at some point. So I appreciate that kind of support from you guys as well.
There you go. Well, on that note, gang, thank you very much for tuning into what might be the shortest primer we've ever done. Regular transmissions will resume the following week. We'll have more information whenever we do our live stream about Dusklight's content for the next sort of month, 2 months, about what we're planning on doing. For now, stay safe, stay loved, stay healthy, and we will see you again when the sun sets and dusk enters the station.